there, I'm Amy.Connell. Welcome to Graced Health, the podcast for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate. I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who wants you to know your eating, movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you're called to do. A few weeks ago, I had my parents in town for my older son's graduation. Are you guys tired of hearing this about my son's graduation? As you can imagine, if you have experienced it or if not, it was a chaotic day. And I was just hustling around trying to do several things at once. Between the actual graduation ceremony and the company, we were all just kind of out of our rhythm, just, trying to figure out how to put all of this together. And that it was including my dog. She didn't know where to go. I think maybe I had moved her bed somewhere for some reason. I don't even remember. And then of course she was always trying to figure out, well, do I beg for pets from my dad, our granddad, or beg for food from Gamma, my mom, because she really likes it when both of them come. She gets a lot of loving. So I was like super engrossed in something on my phone. I don't even know what. And walking over to grab something in the living room, my eyes were down and I wasn't paying attention to the space around me, including the unusual place my dog was just laying down or passed out or something. Sure enough, I rounded the corner and accidentally kicked her in the face. I know, I felt horrible. Of course, we were both startled, and her attempt to jump up and get out of my way compounded with me jumping to the side. And of course, she went the same way I did, so I ran right into her. It made for quite a split-second scene. So I just kind of took these few wobbly, drunken-looking steps, even though it was 11 o'clock in the morning, and that had not been going on. And I was able to recover. And she was fine, my sweet girl. She was okay. And I loved on her and told her I was sorry. And I think she accepted it. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes. But then, of course, I had to take that moment. I looked at my son, and just in the most absurd, dorky way possible, I said, "See, that is why it's important to train your balance as you get older." And then, of course, he gave me the eye roll I expected and looked back down at his phone, which he was scrolling on, but at least he was sitting down. He wasn't walking around. Balance is one of those things that you don't realize how much you need it until you actually need it. Unfortunately, as we age, we don't even realize how much it is deteriorating. That's a hard word for me to say, apparently, until it's too late, until something happens like we trip over that dog, but we actually go down and we might even hurt ourselves. As we age, and of course, as we age, that's a phrase that we come to really, really hate, but there are certain physiological systems that begin to decline. And of course, this can really influence the ability to maintain the right posture or balance. Some of these age-related declines are in the inner ear. Some of them are visual. Some of them are musculoskeletal. So like the way that your muscles and skeleton work together. Some of them are in your central nervous system. And then of course, there's orthopedic issues, right? Like our knees aren't as great sometimes, or our hips. We can even have, hopefully this isn't us at this point, but there can be cognitive impairments. All of these contribute to a deterioration in our balance. And so as a result, we tend to be less stable. And of course, this increases the risk of falling, both during they call it dynamic and static conditions. So dynamic is more if you're just kind of standing there, or something where you're more still and you fall. But then the static is, again, accidentally kicking your straight-turned princess pit bull. And this isn't a surprise, but when situations like that happen, younger adults and older adults really maintain that balance differently. Older ones will take longer to catch themselves when there's a slip, or if there's another unexpected reason that they're going off balance, they take longer to react, which can be too late in some circumstances. Often we don't realize how much balance we've lost until we intentionally do some balance movements. This is something I incorporate in with all of my personal training clients because we're all getting older, and it's one of those things that can be very surprising to people. Are like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how bad my balance is. And I tell them that's okay because it gives us a challenge and it gives us something to work on. So there's no shame if your balance has deteriorated. There's no shame if you can hardly stand on one leg for a little while, but it does provide an opportunity to focus on that some more. Now, I want to give you a few things to think about in this short little session that we're having today. One is, how can you focus on balance in your everyday life? So maybe you really don't move a whole lot, like you don't work out, you don't go to the gym, you don't train, you don't do fitness classes. There are still ways that you can absolutely intentionally try to focus on your balance just as you go about life. So one thing is, when you're brushing your teeth, I love to tell this when I'm speaking at groups. When you're brushing your teeth in the morning, start with your feet hip width apart and kind of with equal weight on it, and then shift your weight over to your left side. Lift your right foot up. Now, the key to this is keep those hips square, just like when both feet were on the ground. It's really easy to kind of prop that hip over because what our body is doing is compensating our raised right leg. And so it's real easy to prop that left hip over, but try and keep it steady. Try and keep it steady. So don't shift your weight into that supporting leg's hip. And then in the evening, when you're brushing your teeth, do the same thing on the opposite side. Raise your left side, raise your left leg. The more you bring it up like a flamingo, the easier it's going to be. The most challenging way that you can balance just on one foot is to elevate that foot about an inch off the ground. So if someone was looking at you, they may not even realize that you're balancing. Another thing you can do to focus on your balance is raise up on your toes and shift your weight back and forth. Now you can either stay on your toes, you can drop one heel as you go to one side. So if you shift over to your right side, drop your right heel, then shift over to your left side and drop your left heel. So you're kind of on your toes in the middle of it. If you feel like you are ready for more, then stay on your toes as you shift back and forth. If you're ready for more than that, then as you go to the right side, just lift that left side, that left leg up to the side, just even a couple inches. The longer you hold it, the more challenging it'll be, and then take it back down and go do the other thing on the other side. Another thing to think about as you are just going about your everyday life, if you are picking something up off the floor. So I have a really bad habit of leaving my gym shoes everywhere. Instead of just bending over and mindlessly picking it up, instead shift your weight to, say, your right foot and slowly lift your left leg back behind you as you lower your torso in a hinging position. So don't round out your shoulders. Think about a door hinge, and your upper body is going to hinge down as you lift one leg behind you, and then slowly come back up to that standing position. So ideally, if you are on your right foot and your left leg is elevating, and then as you come back up, keep that left foot elevated until you come to basically a standing position, and then put that foot down. And then the next time you're picking something up, do that as well. Now, I'm not saying we need to be crazy and this is not like to burn more calories, do walking lunges everywhere, but just on these small little opportunities, maybe just add a bit of balance in. And I think that will help train our bodies to be balanced in situations where we may not necessarily feel like we are. The other thing to do to focus on your balance is make sure you have a strong core. This actually does support your balance, those inner muscles. And spoiler alert, your core is not just those six-pack abs. So be sure you're training your entire core. And if you want to learn more about this, make sure you tune in next week, because next week I will be talking more about our core. Now, if you are at the gym, if you are typically used to doing something and you want to add in a bit of more balance movements while you are exercising, here are a couple things to do. If you are doing basic exercises, and basic doesn't mean easy, by the way. I'm just saying that these are kind of standard things that some people do, like bicep curls or overhead presses or lateral raises where you bring your arms out to the side. Then instead of having both feet on the floor, lift one leg. Again, I call it flamingoing it. So you can start with flamingoing your leg and then slowly drop it down. But very important to keep those hips steady and square where they're not rotating or shifting. Because if you do that, then everything else is going to be shifting apart. So I want everything nice and sturdy as you do a curl, as you do a press, as you do a lateral raise. Another thing you can do are some simple, basic balance poses like tree, which is where you stand with one foot down and you can bring you bring your foot either up to your calf or your thigh, the inner thigh, and your knee is out. Don't ever put your foot on the inside of your knee joint. That's just too much stress on your knee, and you're really pressing that knee out. But those are great. Those are great exercises. Those tree poses. Warrior 3 is kind of like that example when I was saying about bending down and picking something up. It's basically one foot is planted. You are hinged forward with your upper body, and your other leg is raised. Ideally, you are in kind of a T position. You can do that in your warm up or your cool down whenever it seems to work for you. But typically those poses that you stand in for a little bit work well either in the beginning or the end of your workout. Now, 2 pro tips for you. 1, focus on an unmoving object as you learn to study yourself. If you are watching someone, if you are watching yourself in the mirror, if you are if you're in a group fitness class and you're watching someone, you're going to get pulled off if they're moving, or if you're looking at yourself and you're moving. So find an object on the ground or a little piece, something on the floor that you can stare at to help center yourself. And then the second pro tip is imagine if you're doing any kind of balance work on your feet, imagine your foot as a pyramid and distribute your weight evenly between your big toe, your little toe, and your heel. Sometimes we have a tendency to scrunch our toes up, or we might roll our ankles in just a bit and we're just on our big toe and our heel. Try to really evenly distribute that. So those are my 2 pro tips for you. Now, you can also train your brain and body to prepare for those I accidentally kicked the dog moments, or tripped over Legos, or maybe it's your grandkids' Legos, in other ways. So a couple different ways to just help train your body to be imbalanced. Of course, we do this by training with some balance stuff, but a couple things. Number 1, when safe and possible, exercise barefoot. I am a huge fan of exercising without shoes on. This is how I train all of my clients because we can feel the ground below us. Our ankles will be able to adjust a lot more rather than if we are in really, thick shoes or something like that. Now, if you are in like a high impact group fitness class, maybe not. But if you're doing gym training, again, when safe and possible, you're smart. You can figure this out. Another thing is to stand on a foam pad. I will have, the show notes on my website that has a link to this, but basically it's about 12 or 15 inches wide, about 12 inches long. It's just a big rectangle and it's about 1.5 inches thick. But when you can stand on that has a bit of instability, and you're going to notice that you have to work harder just to stay upright. And of course, there are other instability, I call them toys, pieces of equipment is probably a more professional word, but there are other things like that. But honestly, a foam pad is like $15, and I really like using it for that. And then I actually incorporate that in other ways for some of my clients. Now, here's another thing that you can do. When you are, just say you are doing tree pose and you are looking ahead and you are focusing on something on the ground, and then you're like, okay, I've got this. I get this. Narrow your eyes into more like slits. Like if you were either glaring at someone or like really, really confused. I wish you could see my eyes right now. Narrow your eyes into slits, and your optic nerves are not going to be taking in as much information. So your brain does not have as much to process, which takes it down to your body, because as we continue to learn, our brain and our body are so interconnected. So if you will just kind of narrow your eyes into a slit, you'll find that it is harder to balance. Try it in a safe place, by the way. Another thing you can do, if you have littles, like if you have younger kids or if you have maybe younger grandkids, this is a fun exercise for them or to do with them. Close your eyes and you're basically going to play like follow the leader and just follow some simple directions from someone else. I used to do this with my group fit classes. So like touch your nose, scratch your left shoulder with your right arm, march in place, raise your left arm, take your right arm out. I mean, you name it, just little different things. But when your eyes are closed, you have to work really hard. Now, obviously, I think it goes without saying, make sure you are in a safe place, that you're not going to tumble. If you do have to take a foot down, then you're going to be able to do that without tripping or rolling your ankle or something like that. So do that when it feels right to you. But that would be really fun for younger kids to be guiding their either moms or grandmas in something like that. So this week, my challenge to you is to try and incorporate a few balance movements, either in your workouts or just your general lifestyle. And you never know, it may prevent a tumble next time you accidentally run into your dog. Now, we obviously have been talking about balance for this entire episode, and balance is the first tenet of my new online on-demand class called B.Complete. Yes, it is the B and then in the B.Complete. And I will be sharing the rest of the acronym over the next several weeks here on the Grace Health podcast. I designed this 40-minute class to cover all the things we want to be focusing on as we age, but maybe we don't necessarily want to take the time to do it, or it's hard to remember all of the things. So I have taken the 17 years of fitness professional experience I have and pulled it all together into a 40-minute class that will really complement whatever it is that you like to do. I'm not offering, this is not a full program. I am not saying you should not be doing anything that you're doing. However you want to move, I want you to move, and I want you to love doing that. But this will complement however that is. B.Complete launches July 26, 2022. So if you are listening to this basically in real time or within the first few weeks after, you can receive pre-sale pricing by going to gracedhealth.com/presale before July 19th to receive half off the $20 class fee. So you'll get this on-demand video class for $10 to do as many times as you want. Go to gracedhealth.com/presale to sign up now and to receive special pricing when it becomes available. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a graced day.